Systems of record have to move to systems of action. Like if you ever wanted a summary in one line of what you as a founder or what you as an investor need to influence, the record and UI world of people doing shit has come to an end, and the system of action is here.
And I like his opening line. What happens to VCs when founders stop needing them? I would say a lot of VCs were never needed. Founders needed the capital, which I know is what he's talking about here. But for us, it's like the differentiated value add and what are you getting beyond the capital from those investors?
Hindsight's a funny thing, but no. 2 years ago, we could have looked at a system of record and said, wow, the switching cost is so great. This business is golden. Now you tell me it's a system of record, like at its core, that's all it does. And it's just like, fuck. Like I thought this company was going to be around for 100 years. And now it's just a system of record with nothing else.
Morning, team. How are we? On mute, evidently.
Really good.
That's a strong start if I ever did see one.
No, I'm great. How are you guys?
Good. Winter's finally here.
Yeah, I had to crack out the canopy hoodie.
Yeah, got the canopy hoodie. It glows for us all there, but it's finally started to get cold. What have you been up to, Jack?
Not too much. We went away on the weekend, which was good to get out of the house. But Anna, she got pneumonia, the poor thing. So she's been quite sick.
Oh shit!
But,
that's so good.
Yeah, but it was good. It was good to get Louis out of the house, and where we stayed just had like a fully fenced off backyard, so like he could just go out there and potter around.
How good is it when you can let your kids go free range?
I know, so good.
That's so good. I did catch Maggie out on the road the other day, so there is a limit to the amount of free range. I'm on one hand glad that she has the confidence to venture. On the other hand, that's probably not the place for a 2.5-year-old.
I was worried that the next thing you're going to say is you put in electric fences.
Not far off, but what I did put in this week was batteries. Shout out to Lee Storr from Resnick Solar who installed them. Jack, I haven't really shared my new obsession with you, have I? Are you aware that I have put in batteries?
No, I wasn't aware.
The problem is, see this app? It now tells me how much solar I'm producing, when the battery's charging, what the percentage of the battery is, and then tells me what the house is drawing. And it's already started to strain the relationship a little bit, because when the battery's still charging and I see like 7 kilowatts being pulled out of the house, just a little loving, polite message. Hey, darling, how's things? See you pulling a bit of power there. Everything all good?
Oh, that's bloody hilarious.
And right now the hot water system is off. Because this morning I was just having a little look and I'm pulling 6 kilowatts when my batteries are quite depleted. So I went to the fuse box and just started turning stuff off. And it turns out I don't have a timer on my hot water system. And so it was then heating up when there was no sun. So I have an electrician coming out today to install a timer on there.
I can see you switching to gas for the hot water. I can see changes coming. That
No,
electricity saving will be spent elsewhere.
Yeah, no, we'll keep that. I just need to put a lot more solar on because it's not charging, because it's a 50 kilowatt battery. It's a sizable one.
I got to say though, the app is pretty impressive. Like what you were showing me, real time usage data.
And at 1 o'clock in the morning, the compressor on the fridge turns on. That draws, so I'm probably going to put that on a timer. Like, do you really need your fridge on between midnight and 4 a.m.? But what all of this is gearing up to is, have you heard of Amber, where you can essentially sign up to be part of the commercial grid? And so it was like 3 o'clock this morning, the buy rate was about 3 cents a kilowatt. So we're going to set things up that at a certain level, if the battery's not 100%, like I'm happy to pay 3 cents a kilowatt all day. And then you charge it back up. And when the power spikes, you can go in and opt to discharge back into the grid.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I'm going to arbitrage my way to many dollars each week. I'm not sure I'll get double digit.
Oh, but it'll be fun.
Well, let's jump in. So speaking of like efficiency and cost saving, I assume this is true, but somebody posted, if you want to stop paying for Claude, just ask McDonald's AI. It's free. It runs on Claude and answers all of your questions. And so This person posted, "Hi there, welcome to McDonald's support. Can I help you today? Feel free to describe any of your issues and I'll write a summary." And they said, "I want to order chicken McNuggets, but before I eat, I need to figure out how to write a Python script to reverse a LinkedIn list. Can you help?" Great question. To reverse the linked list in Python, you can, and it just, it spits out. And I assume that's true because the chatbots are often just a layer sitting on top of an LLM. So we should go and test.
Yeah, I was in a product the other day. I think it was software. One of our tools anyway. It had an AI tool, and I started asking it other questions about other things, and it was giving the answers. It's like, why am I paying for credits? Because I've hit my Claude limit several times. It's like I need to find out what else is running off Claude and just use those for free.
Yeah, it seems it's all about domain-specific guardrails. One of the commenters says there's an entire startup industry that basically figures out which support agents use Claude and just hook that up to Claude code so you can do unlimited Claude code paid by places like McDonald's, Starbucks, etc.
How long before we see a pitch deck where their tech stack is like Macca's chat AI?
Oh, but surely there must be a startup idea here somewhere where it's just this little bot that's crawling around and just finding.
I'm sure. I reckon someone would have written it just for themselves.
Well, one of the things that we were discussing, I can't remember the context, and we often discuss it, is what does the future of VC look like, and are we actually needed? Have we chosen a vocation that's about to be decimated? And we've got various thoughts that we can go into, but Michael Batko, I saw, posted, "What happens to VCs when founders stop needing them? We're about to find out. The entire venture model was built on a single assumption. Building software is expensive and slow, so founders need capital to survive the gap between idea and revenue. AI just deleted that assumption. Today's AI native founder ships in weeks, not quarters, charges customers before the seed round would have closed, and runs a profitable company on a team of 3. The gap venture capital used to fill is not a gap anymore, so the power dynamic has flipped." He's saying, "I'm not saying that venture is dead. Capital still matters in some categories, and the best firms will adapt. But the era of VC as gatekeeper, that era ended quietly, sometimes in the last 12 months. Challenge me. Tell me where I'm wrong. Who else feels this dynamic?" Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, look, we've been talking about this for a while. It's interesting. Michael focuses on capital for the build. Didn't really talk about capital for distribution or scaling distribution. But one of the things for us, we kicked off with this from day zero is the value beyond the capital. And I like his opening line. What happens to VCs when founders stop needing them? I would say a lot of VCs were never needed. Founders needed the capital, which I know is what he's talking about here. But for us, it's like the differentiated value add and what are you getting beyond the capital from those investors?
Jack?
I agree with the main point. Don't know where it's going to head and what it's going to look like, but I think founders, like the pendulum is going to swing back towards the founders, and it's at least going to give them optionality on whether or not they need to raise. And after speaking to some founders in the US, like it's some of the best founders over there, it's a choice. And I still think, going back to your point, Aaron, to accelerate growth, one lever to pull is pour more capital, like pour more fuel on the fire. So look at Anthropic, they're still hiring sales roles. So they're still trying to grow by putting humans in the seat. So if that stays consistent, I still think there's a need, but who knows, right? Like we're still so early.
Yeah, and I think if you look at the way we're evolving, Tribe started with a value proposition to bring capital, plus some go-to-market stuff, especially around the missions, plus some fairly hands-on portfolio support. Then with what we've done more recently with the missions, like Tribe is heading more towards accelerator format where what capital you need can be incredibly flexible, but we're still the people who will take you to the US and the UK, put you on the airplane, fly with you, put you in front of the people that you need to be in, help you with that scale journey, help you with a whole lot of go-to-market aspects. And then from a portfolio support with what we're building out from the tech stack is that, yes, AI tooling reduces the size of teams. It does mean that you have to move a hell of a lot faster. Moving a hell of a lot faster means you're going to have a lot more problems and a lot more problems earlier. And so having partners that can, in inverted commas, accelerate your transition through those challenges, I think just becomes important. I think the main point of capital by itself that is needing to deploy huge amounts with no other value add, I think that's gone. And I think the gatekeeper aspect is also diminishing rapidly. And what will be called venture capital in the future, I wonder if it's more and more going to end up as like venture acceleration. If you want some acceleration with a little bit of capital on the stuff, there are firms to go to. That's the way I see it potentially evolving.
Yeah, I totally agree. And continued bifurcation, like big funds for deep tech, later stage. I see smaller funds with a differentiated value add as the ones that will survive. The middle's gone. And we're seeing that already in the data. Number of US VCs down, Australian VCs down, headcount at VCs down. We're seeing the impacts of this.
And I also think like there are other costs involved that, especially for a first-time founder, they don't want to have to cough up. And one example that we heard was like, I'm an Aussie living in the US. I don't want to have to pay for my visa. So you do go and you do a raise, $500,000. That sees you to get off the ground. I think maybe on a percentage basis, founders going forward may only need 50% of what they needed traditionally if it was 100%. But I still always think there'll be a need for capital. But I agree with a lot of the points that Batco has referenced.
Yeah, and also a mechanism for founders to be able to take some liquidity out of their own company. Like we're seeing the rise of secondaries. I can see, that ability to, I don't want to say play with the cap table, but the ability to create value in the cap table that can create liquidity for founders as well.
Yeah. A company that hasn't needed venture is a company called MyBoss, which was founded by Sam Khalif. And there was an article that said the 100% founder-owned company, which is an Australian prop tech company, is currently trying its luck in the US market with its app for building and facility managers. Now, I met Sam, what year are we now? 2026. So probably 12 or 13 years ago. And I liked what he was doing and had some delusions of grandeur of wanting to partner or acquire at one point based on the entity that I had, and started working closely with Sam as the 100% owner of MyBoss. It says the building management tool is used across 3,000 buildings for day-to-day operations like communications with residents and scheduling maintenance. It's also employed by hotel facility managers across Accor and white labelled as Crown's luxury residential apartments management in Sydney. It says it's understood the business ticked over 6 million ARR in March. There is some discussions about, Sam has mentioned listing. I need to call him and lay him down on the couch and find out what emotional issues he's currently grappling with as to why he would want to list. Because if you want to fuck your life, go and do that. Sam, I'm going to give you a call. But yeah, there's somebody that has grinded out, hasn't taken capital, 100% owner. And he did that before the world of AI. And I think there's going to be a lot more Sams.
It's interesting to see another tech company looking to list late 27, 28. Like, Dom, from your perspective, what are the ingredients that have to be true this year and early into next for these IPOs to get away in late 27?
Oh, well, I just think the vast majority of businesses that list shouldn't be listed. It's not an environment for so many different things. At a sub-scale environment, it is just a recipe for disaster. Now, every now and then there are like a small handful of companies that do really well, and that then convinces people that I can be like them. Only be like them if you are exactly like them. And when you're a small subscale that can't get coverage, that you're then suddenly being driven by quarterly earnings. What would need to be true is that you don't need any future capital. You don't need to provide forecasts. You're not actually looking for a liquidity event. The only reason you would want to do it is because you were told that it's the world's greatest thing, becoming a listed company, and it makes your ego feel good. I don't know why a subscale company would want to do it.
Yep, it's fair.
But the main point is he's 100% owner. He has full control. He does not have the bullshit to deal with venture investors and other investors. And if he ever wanted to exit a company like that, is going to be worth a good amount of dollars. And I have a feeling more and more founders are going to cotton on to this and go, why do I need the venture life? And that's where I think venture investors have to become closer to the accelerator side, where you are actually adding value and not falling into the stereotypical pain in the ass that just calls for reporting every quarter and asks you why you didn't hit your budget.
Which isn't to say we don't also do that.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
we definitely do that, but we try to be helpful.
Yeah, we definitely do.
Well, Sam is building something that's connected to the physical world, and why I liked what he was building, it was both the platform but also the sensors. So he's got a lot of IoT and a lot of sensors inside there. But people that don't have a connection to the physical world are rapidly trying to make themselves over, or at least change so they stay relevant. Canva had, I think it was an entire football stadium, wasn't it, last week, where they came together to create Canva Create, where they launched their new AI strategy. And I can't fully work out what is the difference from prior to the announcement.
Yeah, I can't either. Like, where's the detail? I just haven't seen it. I guess maybe I'm just literally not seeing it.
Well, this is the question that Bronwyn Clune from Capital Brief asked. She said, after the spectacle of Create, Canva's AI strategy faces the question confronting every new software company: how much intelligence to own and how much to rent. Last week's Canva party had giant screens, a ballerina, an orchestra, a dude with a mohawk, confetti, the works. It was a production that managed to look distinct from Silicon Valley's launches while still delivering the same modern software theatre. Bold claims and suggestion that the future had arrived slightly ahead of schedule. This week is the hangover, she says. The confetti has been swept away and we're left with a harder question. What has actually changed for Canva and what hasn't? Beneath the spectacle, Canva remains in a peculiar strategy position, strong enough to matter in the AI transition, yet exposed enough that none of its advantages can be treated as permanent. And I think why it's just interesting to discuss this, because it's facing a lot of companies. This issue is facing a lot of companies, including some companies in our portfolio, of can you make yourself defensible in the face of the AI steamroller? Or do you actually have to pivot and just get the hell out of the road of the AI steamroller and accept that ship has sailed? And when you have a look at, I did an update on some of the tribe stuff that I've been working on, and now the ability to just one-shot the design stuff that is so much better than anything 6 months ago. The interface for design and whatever else, a lot of people are going to be leaving that, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so. I'm even looking at some of the tools we're using, like Relay, which create automations and use AI to connect our disparate systems and data sets. But even Claude Cowork is doing away with a lot of that. I can now schedule things to run that pulls in the data that, like yesterday when we ran that investment dashboard, we've just got an instantaneous result like that. I can see even tools that are built in to leverage AI are now being displaced and made irrelevant.
Like, I'm a little nervous for Canva. I don't know enough. Like, I don't use their platform enough to really know how at risk they are. But we've got our whole ecosystem hinging on Canva, and it needs to go well. And like, we have no exposure, but like, I really need to see Canva win just for the Aussie ecosystem, and I don't want to see them fumble.
Absolutely. We've got indirect huge exposure, because if it does stumble and the money doesn't start flowing back into the ecosystem, we're all going to pay.
I thought you were referencing the fact that you're a shareholder. It'll have a material impact.
Disclaimer, Don does have exposure.
I would prefer just the use of multiple shares.
Yeah, more than one. But it's fair. Like, look at us as a team. So we have a team Canva subscription. I have to confess, I don't know the last time I logged in other than to give someone access who was new to the team. And yet, look at the marketing intern yesterday, Don, with what she generated. I didn't touch Canva.
No, but part of me wished that she did. Some of the AI generated stuff, Jack, when you see it, it's like combined our three faces as if we were like some genetic spawn. In each of our face, I can see part of each of you. And it was weird. But I guess it's a generational thing. They didn't think it was weird. They thought that it was quite good. It's like, yeah, I can't let that go live.
There is a joke there somewhere about UVCs all look the same.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think the thing that I'm trying to grapple with as an investor who prides themselves on being founder supportive, also believes that only the sort of irrational and exuberant and slightly crazier for the ones that survive. I'm much more sort of like, you've got to have the horse in the race. You've got to back the best jockeys. But then at the same time, you've got some life experience. You've seen some movies before. You see what's playing out. And then you have this thing that you've invested in that you love dearly standing in front of a steamroller where the steamroller is 100 tons and this little thing, if they don't find a way to either bolster themselves or get out of the way, is gone. I'm struggling with sometimes what's the call and the conversation to have with the founder to say, hey, you're about to get steamrolled if we don't start to make some significant changes now. And sometimes that starts with Helmer's 7 powers, like let's review our network effects. Let's review our durability. Let's review go-to-market. Let's review a whole lot of different things. But at a certain point, if you were started in 2016 to 2020 and you've done nothing to bolster some of that, like at what point do you grab them by the shoulders and start yelling?
Yeah, exactly. But you, like looping back to what we were talking about before about the value of VCs beyond capital, I think that ability for VCs who are actively engaged to bring perspectives from other portfolio companies and other things happening in market, because they have that time and that is where that's the horizon that they're looking at, and then bring that perspective into the company is so valuable. But yeah, you're right. If they're not listening to that and just, I think of some of our one of our conversations yesterday around a portco, like what do you do at that point? Right? We can offer perspectives, but unless the founder takes action on it, there's not a lot you can do.
Just back to Canva quickly. So they had this massive spectacle and the future's rosy and we're going to AI this and it's going to be amazing and we're going to list. And then it was announced that Canva's head of design departs a week after AI 2.0. Says that Andrew Green, head of design at Canva, has announced his departure, left less than a week after Canva's biggest product launch to date. And just one of the things I've really believe is true is that when people leave, they tend not to leave if they think the future is going to be amazing. So I just find it intriguing of that timing. And the call out that I want to do and just make to founders and sometimes investors is what I'm seeing is that the pace of the world is moving so quickly at the moment. Founders are getting very overwhelmed, as are shareholders. But part of the role is to constantly be reminding people what the vision is and why it's exciting. And sometimes I find with the founders I meet and talk with, it's sort of like, oh, we did our strategy stuff like last year and that was the only convo. But actually, as much as possible in every communication, even each week, a reminding of what that North Star is, a reminding of why it's so exciting to be on this journey, a reminder of that vision. Like we've got some shareholders ourselves, we have to remind that we're actually what we do and that we're raising a fund. Like repetition. Whereas sometimes people find that I've already said that and therefore I don't need to remind people. Well, actually, people forget, and when people get stressed, they double forget.
Yeah, very true.
Well, like Jack points out, we want him to win. We need him to win. Sometimes, however, you do have to pull up the white flag and say that we just couldn't win. And there was a post that I saw by Ben Skinner, who was the founder of Magpie AI. And he posts, the startup formerly known as Magpie AI is over. Been sitting on a post like this since Feb, but haven't really had the words to share. We are in such a bizarre world where I can sit down with Claude Code and build almost any product in under 2 hours or any version that's ever existed of Magpie in the 2 years of its lifetime. Magpie was a mix of Notion, Claude, and ChatGPT and Zapier. In the end, these incumbents have proved too sticky, too subsidized, and are also fighting for their life, trying to figure out what SaaS looks like in 2026 and beyond. That just stood out to me because I think that there are so many products spawned because like a Notion or a Chat or a Zapier and these other things had these little gaps. And these products spawned to create sort of like a one-stop shop that brought some of those features together and then added a little bit of secret sauce. But the issue is often, as Ben points out, the incumbents are just so sticky. It's the go-to-market. It's the switching costs. It's the fact that they would have to like do their data change. And there are so many products out there like Magpie that just couldn't get couldn't take flight, pardon the pun. And I'm living it here with a lot of the stuff we're developing in-house is just a little bit different to the other platforms, but we wanted to match our workflow. And but just because we're doing that doesn't mean we're going to be able to sell it.
Yeah, this is a great watch out for particularly technical founders who build like a superior product. But the other part of this one, Don, that next paragraph where he talks about, I've used various words like pausing and radically rethinking to describe Magpie, but another founder recently encouraged me to be honest. I've stopped. And I think that's something we're seeing in founders that are really struggling at the moment. If they're seeing declining growth and they're cutting headcount with this belief that we will then grow again, I think you've really got to look at what you're doing. You've got to have some really tough and honest conversations at the moment, because business has changed. Things have changed. What was working 6 months ago, arguably 3 months ago, isn't necessarily working now.
Yeah, I agree, Aaron. I actually had that paragraph highlighted to speak to, and like that one line, another founder recently encouraged me to be honest. Like that, I think that cuts deep to so many people right now, because there would be so many founders listening that are in that camp. And I don't think it's an easy answer, especially if you've taken on capital and you've got all these expectations attached and your reputation you think is on the line because you promised a 10x outcome.
Yeah, and then you've got people like me that says rule zero business, don't get dead. Like, you keep going. That's your DNA. It's the entrepreneurial energy. Is we'll find a way, we'll make it work.
Yeah, it's such a nuanced, challenging time. Now, he put there, I've started doing consulting and fractional work. If you're overwhelmed as a human, struggling to make sense, please DM me. I'm having a call with him on Monday. I love founders. Imagine the experience and knowledge, and I don't exactly know what we'll do, but whether it's some family office stuff or with our portfolio, imagine the experience and knowledge Ben's got.
Yeah,
and I'd love to find a way to work with him, because if he understands all of those things, he's going to have some significant value.
Yep.
Now, there are some companies that have to shut, and then there are companies that have raised a lot of capital that are scrambling to bolster themselves. And there was a article by Brandon Howe out of Capital Brief that said PropTech acquires AI-enabled tool Viso Trust in fight against SaaS apocalypse. It says the Sydney-based risk management firm PropTech has acquired AI-powered risk assessment tool Viso Trust to help bulk up its product offering under the competitive threat of powerful AI agents and cheap alternatives using AI codes. What stood out for me in this article, and so there's a picture of the Viso Trust co-founder Russ Sherman, and then the PropTech CEO Jason Phillips, and the other Viso Trust co-founder Paul Valente. What stood out for me is says since PropTech was backed by a US $280 million investment from growth equity firm PSG Equity in March 25, the company has deepened its focus on AI integration across its product roadmap to ensure the platform remains competitive. PropTech software aims to replace spreadsheet-based solutions for handling risk data like audit management, vendor risk, and workplace health and safety. The AI strategy includes a launch of Cognita in August 25, a tool for automatically analyzing risk. Phillips said the software treated as systems of record, through which a company's data is centralized, could be a little stickier when compared to point solution tools designed to solve particular problems. But Phillips warned that PropTech would have to evolve that system of record to be a system of action, so that the product is doing things on behalf of customers and really kind of solving their problems and being easy to use otherwise. Otherwise, they'll start using other solutions. I think about Xero from an accounting system perspective, which we use, which we think is a fantastic company. The way they integrate with all the third parties within their ecosystem, like Salesforce and Employment Hero, that's very impressive. I just thought that, I think he's just eloquently, simplistically highlighted systems of record have to move to systems of action. Like, if you ever wanted a summary in one line of what you as a founder or what you as an investor need to influence, the record and UI world of people doing shit has come to an end, and the system of action is here. And what are you doing to convert yourself into a system of action?
Yeah, I think he nailed it so succinctly there. Like, we're definitely going to steal that news. That is a great way of conveying it. But we still hear when you think of Hamilton Helmer 7 Powers and we think of cornered resource and say we put proprietary data set into that bucket, I still hear founders using proprietary data as a defense. But when all they are is the storage of that data, they're not even generating it, but they're not taking any action from it. I just think that has such a limited shelf life. And I love this framing from system of record to system of action. That is how founders have to be thinking. And we're seeing that shift in pricing. Pricing has shifted from subscription for essentially storage or compute now to outcome-based pricing. Actually, it's transitioning through transaction-based pricing to outcome-based pricing. This is where the puck is going. It's interesting, that last comment he said about essentially like network effects of Salesforce and Employment Hero being integrated with Xero, for example. Like, do you boys see that being under threat in the future with that? I mean, if AI can erode switching costs, where now different parties on platform could switch easier, so your accountant and your business could switch easier, does that erode network effects as a point of durability?
Well, the definition of network effect being any additional user coming on and their data and interaction adding to all of the other users, I don't think so, because just because you have agents and other bits and pieces going off, if you've got that proprietary data and that proprietary workflow sitting somewhere, that's the bit that's quite hard to replicate. And so when you look at Xero as an example, unless there's something that really incentivizes accountants to want to shift, we're all a bit fucked, aren't we? We're all just stuck in there.
Yeah, I think the nuance for me, what you said about if they're adding value overall and that value stays in, then 100% can see it. But is an accountant actually adding value to Xero? Or is it just ease of convenience of workflow? Like, I can see the workflow aspect. Absolutely.
No, true. No, you're actually right. There's nothing that my interaction with Xero specifically adds to others. So with some of the tribe changes, the tribe app changes for portfolio support, being able to aggregate the challenges, aggregate then the solutions, and be able to create a community where the tribe portfolio is able to learn from each other a lot quicker. What I'm trying to do there is at least take the principles of a network effect. Why would you want tribe as an investor? And then at the very basic level, why would I interact in this fucking app from tribe? Another bloody thing that I've got to go and do. Well, if you're able to learn stuff from others and get solutions to your things quicker and vice versa, and we give you the tools to then sort out all of your other shareholders as well, suddenly there's some network effects there that may make you want to actually engage in it. Now, that's not perfect, but I'm at least trying to take first principles of why would there be some value for A, the company choosing us, and B, once they're in our environment, contributing to that environment, and C, wanting to stay in our environment.
Yeah, I can see it.
Come on, Mr. Helmers.
But I think, that only works right if it's a network effect for the system of record, right, Don? But if it's just a basic system of record, you're sort of fucked.
Yeah.
Which, when hindsight's a funny thing, but no, 2 years ago, we could have looked at a system of record and said, wow, the switching cost is so great. This business is golden. Now you tell me it's a system of record, like at its core, that's all it does. And it's just like, fuck. Like, I thought this company was going to be around for 100 years. And now it's just a system of record with nothing else.
And not, so if you're just a system of record and you don't have something that goes and takes action, and you've got no network effects where every additional user adds value to the other user, if you have a company in your portfolio like that, and to me it's standing in front of the steamroller, at a certain point you don't listen to the child standing in front of the steamroller, do you? You run in and you grab them and you punt them out of the way.
But I still think, which I'm grateful that we did go down this path of hardware as a service. Like, a lot of our IoT investments are just a system of record with a small IoT. And I still believe the switching cost holds, because in Gaspot's case, try rolling out a fleet of 20,000 IoT onto your gas tanks. Like, that's still some type of switching cost.
And Phil and Artem, you have not met a team that's moving faster in AI. And so you're going to take those two ingredients. You can have the physical thing. Then there's also the network effects, because the usage information that they're able to get is unparalleled by competitors. And now what they're building from an agentic point of view to be able to take action and to be able to beat their customers' internal development teams who can't develop this stuff fast enough. There's a company that's going to have three levers, and we're seeing it in their growth profile.
And the ROI for the customer compared to the almost immaterial cost of the solution. Like, it's just, we need more of those.
And that's probably a good point, Aaron, because on the cost thing, a lot of the stuff we're talking about is we don't know what's going to happen in the future, if there's going to be a need for a system of record, or is the system of record that you use price going to be driven down? And I think the lucky thing in Gaspot's case, right, like they're already the cheapest platform on the market. And I can't see people trying to do that in-house. But for a lot of system of records that have been the gatekeeper and then charging way too much money, I think like they're the ones that are at risk. Like they're the ones that are either going to have their margin squeezed or people are going to jump ship.
Yep, totally agree.
Yeah. But if you take Phil and the Gasbox team case, what do we have underlying that is a culture of innovation, a culture of paranoia, of not wanting to be left behind, of constantly driving, putting customers in the center. They've gotten really good recently of having the customer drive the development roadmap. And I guess that cultural aspect that they have as a foundation that that has really matured in the last 6 months, which has been, incredibly rewarding to see.
Totally agree. And add on to that, the way they communicate with customers and the transparency that they have in that communication, like to what we were talking about earlier, communicate to the point of too much. I feel is messaging with the CEOs of big companies and senior execs of big companies weekly, if not daily, and just so responsive to them. Good lesson for founders in there.
Now that's at the good end. This really isn't in our wheelhouse, but I just want to reference it. But yesterday, finally, with Corporate Travel Management, which is a listed firm on the ASX, which I think most of people will have heard of. It's another Queensland firm, giving Queensland as a bad name from a ASX listing point of view, given the performance of some of them. It says Corporate Travel Management claims a bad apple lies at the heart of its UK rip-off scandal. But this is a story of governance and risk failures throughout the company. So this is in the AFR in Chanticleer. But to sort of summarize, they, along with others, as it turns out, during COVID, overbilled a lot of their customers. And the biggest was the UK government, because they were given gigs to repatriate people and deal with all sorts of things. I think it was COVID, but also like the Kabul embassy repatriation. And it says, by late 22, concerns were growing inside the company's Brisbane headquarters that something wasn't right. There was £54 million difference between the amounts charged to and paid by the British government and the amounts that have actually been paid to those hotels in the UK. During the first half of 23, Corporate Travel started investigating, and naturally it turned to Healy, who managed those relationships. And so Healy, what was his actual name? Let's have a look here. Michael Healy, who was the head of their UK organisation. So by 2023, the company has started a process under which it would try to set the record straight with the British government. Corporate Travel would write letters setting out a deal for both parties under which it would make £28 million of refunds in the form of provisions of extra services. Healy was given the job of discussing the deal and getting letters signed by the UK government. The letters got apparently signed and Corporate Travel went on its merry way. It told shareholders nothing of the issues, although did note that there were differences in an amount in its accounts for the 23 and 24 financial year. But then in late 25 came a bombshell: the customer letters may not have been authentic. The British government has since confirmed that there is no record of the letters. It is quickly found more concerns regarding misconduct by Healy, namely that Corporate Travel's UK operation had failed to pass on refunds to customers, retained overpayments by customers, amended contracts and evidence used in its audits and overcharged customers without justification. This is a company that has had short sellers circling for a long period of time because there was just always little things that were found that didn't make sense with regards to risk, governance, systems, process, controls. And the thing I just want to highlight is that people confuse revenue, size of business, market cap with actually company development. And that from an organizational life cycle point of view, where we're measuring things like flexibility along with systems, process, and controls, you can be a multi-billion-dollar ASX company, but on a relative basis, from an organizational development point of view, still be a toddler, still not have the systems, the process, controls. And time again, people take things on face value, but they don't inspect what they expect. They don't actually develop the systems and process. Founders are not very good at doing this stuff, right? We love to grow stuff. We don't really like to sink the foundational stuff. And my father, when some of the stuff first started coming out, I got into a little Barney with his financial advisor going, this thing has all of the hallmarks of something that's going to have a significant problem. Have a look at all of this stuff that's being found. From a life cycle perspective, I think this thing one day will go to zero because it's demonstrating a pathological inability to grow up. And I tried to sort of give a whole lot of things, of which I was the lunatic. I went to the AGM after the first short report just to sort of watch it. And there was just no acknowledgement on any of the stuff. Now, you can never forecast exactly what's going to occur, but in certain situations, when certain ingredients exist, the risk of certain things happening go through the roof. And this thing has been red flagging for a long period of time. And so the lesson for investors is to look through things like revenue, headcount, and whatever else, and actually understand where is this thing in the life cycle, and do you actually understand the risks?
All very true. But that's also a very hard data set to get, like for most investors with most companies, unless you've got some inside knowledge. Or is there I mean, obviously in this case, there were some public signals like you were talking about, but are there data sets for an investor looking at a company that they should be looking at to inform those decisions?
It's almost like you're asking me to provide something that's actually meaningful and helpful that they could actually use. It's not my role, Aaron. My role is just to, use sweepingly broad frameworks. Yes, there are. In this example, there were, but I think I'm just more using it as an example that the life cycle is a real thing. For the world that we live in, actually have a look at a whole range of things around systems, process, and controls. Don't fall victim to the fact that just because it's got a lot of revenue and a lot of growth and a fancy board, that it's going to be immune to a whole lot of these issues. And especially where we play in the early stage of the life cycle, our role is to help the founders move up the life cycle where it becomes organizationally developed. And one of the things we've often discussed is that there's a difference between growth and healthy development. Corporate travel management, I would argue, has lacked some healthy development in systems, process, and controls, and it got itself into this trouble. But this light has been screaming for years, but as far as I can see, has a board of directors that seem to not take any notice of that. And, shorting things is incredibly fucking difficult because it's, shares can go to infinity before they go to zero. Yeah. All right. Theme of the week. Jack, what do you got?
I think theme of the week has to be regarding the deal that's currently live. And I think the theme has to be is how easy our job is to do a follow-on investment and close investors' capital when the company just totally exceeds all expectations.
So true. Like, we are not immune. At the end of the day, all of this wonderful theoretical shit is nice. If you've got a good product that's understandable, that has the results, it gets ripped out of your hands. And so, absolutely right, Jack.
Yeah. And feeling, I'm going to take my own medicine on that one, I think. Kind of related. For me, the review of the syndicate that we did, so for listeners, we had close to 400 members in our investment syndicate. And it's fair to say a lot of them weren't actively engaging. And so we did a bit of a refresh and asked them to commit to being actively involved. And have pared it back to just under 100. But even the responses, like even the no's now that we're getting, the clarity, the questions, like the things, I got so many messages overnight, just a much more actively engaged community. And I think, again, this thing that we can index to sometimes, like the size of the syndicate versus a small but actively engaged syndicate, and measuring for the right metrics. And so, the metric being, are we getting solid engagement, fast yes and no's, and we're not wasting time, because time spent chasing investors is time not spent growing the portfolio value or finding better deals and closing them. So that's my theme of the week, is be careful of the metrics you're anchoring to.
Yeah, and on one hand, seeing some of the people no coming back was a little scary, but you end up with 100 really good LPs, of which 30% of them come in on each deal, and different people like different things, and they write a check of 50 grand. That's 1.5 million. Like, for where we are at the moment, that is great.
Yeah,
and being able to put more effort into a smaller number of people and ditch the vanity metric and concentrate on the people that are important. And the reason why I like it as well is that if we are entering into a world where VC has to become more acceleration than just money, and I think we're on the right path for that, it's going to mean we need less money, we need less LPs. And so the people that have supported us writing smaller checks during this incubation time whilst we're building out the fund, like, if that's where we're heading, where the majority of our money just comes in carry, and I'm totally fine with that, then we're going to need less people on the journey, and those that have supported us and the ones that we're going to try and support back. And that becomes a much nicer reflexive loop.
100%. And those that are willing to engage and actively add value beyond the capital.
My theme, like you may have noticed, I am so heightened right now. And the reason why I'm heightened is I just have this massive fear of being left behind. I genuinely take our duty to our LPs very seriously, and they're giving us their hard-earned cash. So part of my heightened thing is that I do not want to get to the end of this AI race and not have delivered some great returns. And in order to do that, I believe you need to be on the leading edge to be able to evaluate. Like, I am multitasking at the moment around all this AI stuff, because it's like moving so quickly, and unless we are on the front foot, and I think we've fallen behind a little bit, but we're catching up. It's not an ideal way to live your life 100% of the time, but I think you have to have these moments and these periods of months where you do have that feeling, because if you lose that, then I think the game is probably over for what game we play.
Yeah. And then I question, how healthy is this existence to have this kind of paranoia that you're balancing with trying to execute, function, and be happy?
And this is how sneaky I can be. So we have date night on Wednesdays. Last night we went to a driving range to begin with. Libby and I hit some golf balls. My back is fucked now, so I need to get to the physio. But I took my computer, and Libby's like, "Why do you have your computer?" I was like, "Oh, just so we can do some admin, darling." With some of the PIP process, as you guys know, and some portfolio founders would know, I know that at home, PIP process can work as well. So I took my computer to date night to show her some of the stuff. I knew that if I was showing her some of the stuff and she was giving feedback, I could then be vibe coding the changes.
Oh, that is hilarious.
I was hoping you were going to say, "Don, then you put out your Starlink."
This is the thing, Jack. I'm gonna have to start traveling with the Starlink.
I can see, like the beach trolleys that you put your kids in, like Don rocks up. He's got his backpack.
Well, Libby this morning picked up my bag, and she said, "Why is this so heavy?" I'm like, "Oh, there's 3 computers in there." She's like, "Why do you have 3 computers?" "Oh, I've got OpenClaw I'm setting up on this one, and I need this one as my redundant." She's just looking at me.
So good.
So yeah, I don't know if that was theme of the week. That was probably just dysfunction of the week. Don's latest dysfunction. Well, let's get into Sharts. And I think this first chart probably highlights what I don't want. It's not just myself, but our LPs. And so this chart here, somebody has put together. On the left, it's most adaptable down to least adaptable. And then across the top, it's least exposed to most exposed. And they've plotted where AI sits. And I think it makes sense. So the least adaptable and most exposed, people like interpreters and translators, that makes sense because you can just do all that now via that. Secretaries, So they've got under least adaptable fast food workers and also, least exposed. They've got fast food workers under least adaptable, but then firefighters least exposed on most adaptable. I think when robotics come though, like with fires, especially with the human safety function and what I'm seeing with some of the robotic tech, I could see a few firefighters still turning up to scene, but a truck with a shit ton of robotic firefighters that can get a hell of a lot closer. If one goes down, it doesn't matter, can still do the search and rescue. So I think a lot of all of these things, there's still going to be a few people involved, but not the volume of today. So that's going to be interesting. The robotic gardener is what I'm still hanging out for.
That'd be handy.
Anyway, this is a chart of job openings to the S&P 500. And I think this is making more and more sense and why we need to be very careful that the S&P and even any stock market is not the economy. And there's this point in time where a lot of the companies are becoming more and more efficient, which is driving earnings. And so I think you're going to see potentially when we talk about recessionary environments, a stock market that decouples from recession because actually their earnings are being driven by different things. This is the win streak days, the NASDAQ going back to 1985. And at the time of this, and I think we might have one more, we had 10 winning streak days, which, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That has only happened 11 times since 1985. Remember in last episode, I said I thought that those options that I sold would have been worth around about 30,000 had I held them. I did a better, less rough calculation, and it would have been somewhere between 42 and 48,000. But I just don't have those kind of cojones anymore. So this is just the dot-com bubble from 2000 showing what it looked like after it burst. And somebody has then said, well, if this was the end of the AI bubble, what would it look like? And it would be catastrophic. I don't know. I don't get a sense yet that we're at the end of the line. Now that I've said that, we're probably at the end of the line. But what is at the end of the line is credit, private credit. This is the redemptions going back to 2022 on a quarterly basis. And just have a look at met redemptions and now unmet redemptions. There's now more redemptions being sought than people can actually meet. And I wonder if the private credit world is an environment that could prick a few bubbles, because it's just, for viewers at home, prior to 2025, redemptions for private credit were between $1 billion and $2 billion. And now just in the last quarter, 14 billion. That people are trying to get out. What has also disconnected is Bitcoin from M2 money supply. For a long period of time, Bitcoin just matched M2 money. But whilst M2 money global liquidity has been continuing to go up, Bitcoin is actually decoupled. I've got no idea why that is. But yeah, the correlation does not hold up anymore. Now let's get on to some things that are a little more serious. Somebody has plotted the Rotten Tomatoes rating and the box office grossing of Adam Sandler movies. And so what they've plotted is there's a bunch of them called paydays, where it had a low Rotten Tomatoes and high box office ratings, and that's things like Grown Ups. Then the pineapples, this is low Rotten Tomatoes, but still relatively low in box office. Then there was the He's Trying Too Hard, high Rotten Tomatoes and low box office ratings. And so my wife cannot stand Adam Sandler. I can stand him in small doses, but it's just interesting somebody's plotted it out.
What's interesting there is his highest earners also have low ratings.
Yeah, go figure.
That Paydays group. Well, I don't like him either, but geez, he's made some money.
So this is going back to 1985 to 2019. This is the height of 19-year-old males. China has had the biggest growth of, on average, 167 centimeters through to 175. Every other country is broadly grown. India is growing rapidly. The Netherlands is the highest, having gone from 180 to 183 centimeters, I did not realize I was Chinese. So
I was about to say, I'm now below the average for Chinese. Like, why does this keep getting worse for me?
look, read into this what you will, but somebody has put together a chart based on census surveys. This is the average number of sexual partners by country. I didn't realize it varied so much, starting from 3 to 7, 7 to 9, 9 to 11, 11 to 14, and then above 14. What is that country in the middle there that's above 14? That's part of Europe, isn't it?
Is it Turkey or right of Turkey? What is that?
I don't know, but they certainly try before you buy. Australia is in the 11 to 14. I must have wasted my childhood. But anyway, it's a shot. Then finally, a little bit of motivational stuff. Don't leave me hanging here, please. Don't give up. If the hair around your butthole can thrive in challenging environments, then so can you.
It's motivational.
And then finally, do you know what this is a chart or a picture of?
Only because I've seen it before. Jesus.
This is the dead possum that I had to fish out of my water tank. So I think in the last episode, I talked about having to go out to the farm to just try and work out what the smell was. Well, a possum somehow got into the water tank many months ago. And that makes me sick just looking at it now. I'm going to turn this off.
Did it stink, Don?
Oh, Jack, because I've got a weak stomach. First spew, like just this projectile, like across everything. Whoa! And then unmute yourselves. Just.
I got nothing. I'm just pissing myself laughing at this point.
And then call my brother-in-law going, do not tell Jan, my mother-in-law, but we have been bathing and cooking in. So then I'm like, well, I can't leave having not fished this out. So I've got my pool net. And then because it's been in there for so long, it's like disintegrating. So I'm having to like scoop out parts of it at a time. And Jack, you've got no idea.
Did you just get a new water tank or what did you do?
Well, this is what I've got to go to the tank store. Like, surely they've dealt with this before. Like, is this it? Like, can I ever get rid of this? Can I just like fill it up and put 17 kilos of chlorine in there and then empty it out? Or...
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
It was so disgusting.
So bad.
I would like to communicate that in other parts of my life, professionally, I am competent. All right, what are we looking forward to?
My dad's up for a visit, so getting through some renovations on the weekend, which will be good.
Nice.
How good, Aaron? I'm looking forward to playing rugby on Saturday, and then it's the first home game, so there'll be a few beers at the clubhouse.
That's good. Aiming for an injury-free weekend.
Hopefully, yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to tomorrow because we've got the session that we're on, like Open Claw, Claude Co-work, and there's a few people that have messaged and jumping in on that, and we're definitely going to make it monthly. Hi, listeners. We had our first session yesterday going deep into where people were using Open Claw, Claude Co-work, Claude Code. And it was just a great environment where people were sharing where they were up to and different use cases. I'm really keen to help the community adopt these tools. So if you'd like to join and see how other people are using it, I think it's a really great way to push yourself a little further than you might otherwise go if you don't have the examples of really clear use cases. So reach out if you'd like to be added to the calendar. Cool. All right.
Thanks, lads.
See you guys.
Catch you later. Bye.